Hi, this is Remembering the Past, the show where we talk about people who've died recently who've had a profound effect on our history, our society, or our culture. And in our continuing series on Medal of Honor winners, tonight we wish to honor Staff Sergeant Walter Ehlers, who died recently at the age of 92. He's particularly special to me because he is the last Medal of Honor winner who landed at Normandy on June 6, 1944 D-Day, same day that my father landed. Staff Sergeant Ehlers landed at Omaha Beach. My father landed at Utah Beach. In addition, Staff Sergeant Ehlers' brother, Roland, died on the landing at Omaha Beach on the same day. Staff Sergeant Ehlers won his Medal of Honor for his bravery in the breakout in the bocage of Normandy 3 days after the landing. They were born in Manhattan, Kansas. They enlisted in 1940, and here's the story of Staff Sergeant Ehlers and his brother in the maneuver we've talked about before, the greatest amphibious landing in military history, the Allied landing on June 6, 1944.
In September, my brother was talking about joining the service because they were starting up the selective service system. And he said he didn't want to be drafted, so he's going to go down and enlist in the military service. I said, well, I'm going to go with you. We had a pact. We knew that when we were in combat, both of us had to keep on fighting regardless of what happened to one or the other. And we had a pact that we would forgive the other if we're not stopping to help him because he had to keep on fighting.
In November of 1942, the USS Juno was sunk by a Japanese torpedo during operations near the island of Guadalcanal. 5 brothers, the Sullivans, were tragically killed in the accident. As a result of the incident, General Marshall issued an executive order that brothers were not to serve together in intensive combat conditions. But it was not to be so for Walter and Roland Ehlers, who, though placed in different fighting units, both found themselves heading for the beaches of Normandy just in time for D-Day.
Orders came back, they wanted more men on the beach immediately, so we were some excess troops on the headquarters ship, so they loaded us off of that into Higgins boats. We hit the sandbar, and we rushed out the front, and we ran into water, and it clear up to here on me, up to my nose, and my second command, he was a short guy, he'd come up under my armpit about, and it was over his head. Well, we waited on in, kind of rushing as fast as we could, because there were shells landing out there and the water around us. The chaos was just unbelievable. If you ever saw Saving Private Ryan, I tell the kids, you know, the beach that day was about 60 times worse than what you saw in Private Ryan. We had to cross that beach under crossfire. Just to our right on a hill across the beach was a pillbox, and it could fire clear across the beach. And then down on our left, way down there, was another pillbox, and it could fire across. But there were 2 in between that were facing straight on from the beach, and they could fire either direction. We got up on the beach, and the beach master there, I asked him, which direction are we supposed to go from here? He says, follow that path there. If you go to the right or left of it, you'll step on mines. It didn't go all the way. It had a row of wire in front of us, and there were 2 Bangalore torpedo men who were laying in kind of a deflated area. Snipers were firing at them, and we asked them to blow the wire for us. They told us they were pinned down, and we said, well, we'll fire up in the trenches. So we did. One torpedo man grabbed the torpedo, blew the wire, and as soon as the wire was breached, and we rushed through, but we got up into the trenches, and we ran the Germans out of the trenches there, and they started retreating back, and the trenches, by the way, connected up to the pillboxes, and so we got behind the pillbox, we captured it from the rear. I got all 12 of my men off of the beach, and they followed me because none of them had combat before, and they were amazed they got off that beach without casualties because they saw so many dead men laying around them, and injured men, and guys laying up along both sides and down, up and down the beach.
Within 3 days of the landing, Ehlers' unit had fought its way inland toward the small French town of Goville.
Night of the 7th, I think we had a patrol who overran the front perimeter of our positions that we had, and command came down that I was supposed to take a patrol and follow them. So we followed them, and we could hear them. I heard this firing going on the hedgerow, and the hedgerows go along like this, and they're all squares. I'm leading the squad, and I take off up this hedgerow, and I come upon an enemy patrol. Well, they're about from here to the camera from me with their guns pointed at me, and I just shot them. I shot all 4 of them, and then I went on up the hedgerow because I heard a machine gun up there firing at our troops that were starting to cross the field again. When I went up there, I came upon the machine gun, but then The guy didn't see me. I just shot them both. When they fired on this, the bullet went across my helmet right up there. Spun my helmet on my head just a bit, and I felt the danger. We were drawing fire from 3 sides. I stood up to fire in a semicircle, and my automatic rifleman came up and he started firing too. When all the squad withdrew, then he and I turned to go back. He immediately got hit in the back, and I was down a ways ahead of him. I saw a machine gun going in position down there, and I was trying to knock it out. Then I got hit, and it spun me around. And as I come around, I see a German in the hedgerow, and I shot him. And then I saw the automatic rifleman laying there, so I got up and picked him up and carried him back, and they were still shooting at me, but they missed me.
Even after being treated at an aid station, Ehlers insisted on returning to the battlefield to lead his squad. But it was not until a month after the Normandy invasion that he would learn fully what had happened that day.
Just before we got relieved off the front line there, my brother was officially listed as killed on D-Day. His company commander came over, and he told me that my brother had a direct hit on the ramp, which his whole squad was on when they were coming down. And I knew all of those men in that company, and they wrote me up then. I just had to turn around and leave, go back to the building that we were staying in there, and laid down and cried my head out.
Before my father died, I watched Saving Private Ryan with him when it came out, and he said the same thing, that although the initial battle sequence was extremely realistic, the real landing was far more intense and of course lasted much longer. The website medalofhonor.org describes Staff Sergeant Ehlers' citation, "For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty on June 9th and 10th, 1944, near Goville, France, Staff Sergeant Ehlers, always acting as the spearhead of the attack, repeatedly led his men against heavily defended enemy strongpoints, exposing himself to deadly hostile fire whenever the situation required heroic and courageous leadership." Without waiting for an order, Staff Sergeant Ehlers, far ahead of his men, led his squad against a strongly defended enemy strongpoint, personally killing 4 of an enemy patrol who attacked him en route. Then, crawling forward under withering machine gun fire, he pounced upon the gun crew and put it out of action. Turning his attention to 2 mortars protected by the crossfire of 2 machine guns, Sergeant Ehlers led his men through this hail of bullets to kill or put to flight the enemy of the mortar section, killing 3 men himself. After mopping up the mortar positions, he again advanced on a machine gun, his progress effectively covered by his squad. When he was almost at the top of the gun, he leaped to his feet and, although greatly outnumbered, he knocked out the position single-handed. The next day, having advanced deep into enemy territory, the platoon of which Staff Sergeant Ehlers was a member, finding itself in an untenable position as the enemy brought increased mortar, machine gun, and small arms fire to bear on it, was ordered to withdraw. Staff Sergeant Ehlers, after his squad had covered the withdrawal of the remainder of the platoon, stood up and by continuous fire at the semicircle of enemy placements, diverted the bulk of the heavy hostile fire on himself, thus permitting the members of his own squad to withdraw. At this point, though wounded himself, he carried his wounded automatic rifleman to safety and then returned fearlessly over the shell-swept field to retrieve the automatic rifle which he was unable to carry previously. After having his wound treated, he refused to be evacuated and returned to lead his squad. The intrepid leadership, indomitable courage, and fearless aggressiveness displayed by Staff Sergeant Ehlers in the face of overwhelming enemy forces serve as an inspiration to others. Here in his own words, he describes the actions for which he was awarded the Medal of Honor.
Because I was the experienced one in combat, I could smell the Germans before I could see them. So I just went down the hedgerow there, and I went up on the bank there. I heard some rattling, and I came face to face with 4 Germans on the patrol. All of them had their guns pointed at me. I had to make up a real fast decision. Either I shot them or they're going to shoot me. So I just went like this, pulled my trigger full time and got all 4 of them. So I reloaded, and I had all the guys fix their bayonets, and so they followed me up the hedgerow. I came upon a machine gun nest out there, and I ran out of there and knocked the guy out. And there was a mound back there, and I went up on the mound, and was two mortar positions, 80 millimeter type mortars, the big heavy ones. And when they saw me come up there, I asked them to halt, and the other men came up, and of course they really got frightened and ran. I told them that they had to shoot him or else they're going to have to fight him again. So that's what we did. Then the next morning, we were going up this next hedgerow, and our squad got clear up to almost to the hedgerow in front of us. And so when we were going up there, we started getting fire. Company commander said to withdraw. I knew that if we turned around, well, they'd probably shoot us all in the back. So I went up on the hedge, and I started firing in the left, and an automatic rifleman came up, and he fired around to the right to keep the Germans pinned down. And I saw him putting a machine gun down in the corner down there, so I'm busy shooting at these three guys who were putting in the machine gun down there when I got hit in the back. They hit me in the back, went into my rib here, and I glanced off of the rib, went out, made two holes, one where it went in, one where it came out, but I got up and went over and picked up the BAR man. I saw him laying on the field when I got up, and so I carried him back, even though I was wounded myself. After I got him back behind the hedgerow and turned him over to the medics, and then I went back and got his rifle. And then after I got back, when we started loading the automatic rifleman on the ambulance, I told the company commander, you better have the medics look at that wound in my back. So he turned me around, and he saw that bullet hole come through my trench hole. He says, my God, you should be dead. It was kind of a miracle. I don't know. It looked like I should have been dead, but I wasn't.
Here is Staff Sergeant Ehlers describing being awarded the Medal of Honor.
I didn't know I was going to be put in for a medal or anything like that. I didn't have the least idea. A colonel saw me, and he called me by my last name. I didn't know who the colonel was, and I just had my combat fatigues on, and no stripes, nothing, no rank. And he said, Sergeant Ehlers, what are you doing here? I didn't know a colonel even knew me. And he says, I said, well, sir, I'm reporting back to duty. He said, well, you're supposed to be back in the States getting the Medal of Honor from the President. I said, yes, sir, I read about it in the Stars and Stripes. That's how I knew about it. It's an honor that you can't comprehend how much of an honor it is unless you're living the experience. We're actually just doing our job, but sometimes we do them above and beyond the call of duty, and it's always at the risk of your life, too. And as you notice, that most Medal of Honors are posthumously. So it's a fantastic honor, and it opens a lot of doors that wouldn't have been opened otherwise. We call ourselves recipients, and people call us winners. And as you see, we're not winners because we weren't in a competition for trying to win anything. We happen to be recognized by our fellow men, and so we wear this medal to honor them and to honor the guys who really paid the supreme sacrifice, because we are here today because of them. I consider my brother a hero because he paid the supreme sacrifice. And so after it was all over, I came back to my senses, knew what I had to do, and keep on fighting.
50 years later, Walter Ehlers spoke at Omaha Beach for the 50th anniversary in 1994. Afterward, he said, I go to 3 or 4 events a month. Why? People ask me to. I don't charge. I get $600 a month stipend from our government for the Medal of Honor, and I think I owe them. I like to talk to kids. I make the point that they should get as much education as possible. I also talk about having faith in God and in one another. I do it because I think our country needs to know as much as possible about our history, why we're a nation that people still want to come to. They die to get here, not get out. I let kids know about their freedom, that it doesn't come free. We have to fight for it. I'm going to close on that note. I want to thank my producer, Sid Tepps. Staff Sergeant Walter Ehlers, the last Medal of Honor winner from the landing at Normandy Beach. From talking with my father, I understand the danger that you faced. I visited the bocages of Normandy with him, and I realized how brave you men were and how important your mission was. The story of the Battle of Normandy will live on for many generations to come. As I've said before, we cannot begin to repay the debt of gratitude that we owe you and others like your brother. Staff Sergeant Walter Ehlers, thank you again.